Okay. So are you guys ready to jump in? I am.
Sunaina, now Sunaina, you're in your studio?
Yes, I am.
It'd be lovely if you could, just give us a quick tour of your studio. And
Okay.
Bob, same thing here.
Great.
Without just some images.
But before we do that, I just want to give an introduction to the whole, what we're about to do, so that everyone that's going to get a chance to participate in watching this with both you wonderful artists know why we're here right now. So I am here with Dr. James George, who is an artist, and he's based in New Jersey. I'm also here with Sunaina Bala, who's an artist who is based in Singapore. And these two artists and I have connected in different ways, and very fortuitously have come together to share around the topic of art and healing and how art can heal. And we're going to share ideas from their studio practices. They're going to share their work. And I'm going to ask them a series of questions so that you guys can get familiar with their art and their incredible journeys individually as artists and why we're here collectively. So yeah, Dr. James George, you were just asking Sunaina to give us a little tour. I love that idea.
Beautiful.
Thank you for putting me on the spot, but okay. Okay, so basically I work from home, and this is the room that I've created as my own after many years of literally having a dining table to work in. I finally, 7 years ago, I got this room and I've created it just the way I want it. So this is the computer, so I'll just walk around and just show you a little bit. I think you can see pretty much the depth of the room here. So basically where I am is my workspace where I've got my laptop and everything. But so this basically is an installation that I just finished with fabric and rope. I was doing this installation for a while. I normally have this wall as my wall of like I have a dry wall here, so I can hang up stuff and see how it looks when it's being done. And I don't know if you can see, I've got some hooks up there on the wall.
Yes,
so
we can see them.
Installation sometimes, so it's really nice to see visually how it's going. And I've got lots and lots of storage space because I love cupboards, and I have to have it as neat as possible. That I'm a little OCD about that, I think, because I need to have it all white. So it's really funny when I'm working on a body of work, I'll have a whole lot of stuff lying around. But when I'm starting something new, it has to be pristine. Otherwise, it doesn't work for me. And I've got this huge badass table, which I absolutely love. It's 8 feet long and 4 feet wide. And it's got a whole row of very narrow drawers on the other side where I put all my paper and my stationery and things like that. And so this is basically the most important part of my studio where I'm working. And I've had a sink put in because you always need some stuff, cleaning and everything. Then I have my area where I do my heating stuff. So I've done a lot with wax. So I need to have my burner over there with the wax melting and things like that. So that's like the area where, I'm very careful with hot materials because it's an apartment building. So I have my fire extinguisher and things like that over there. And over here I have this huge shelf of books which you can't see. Maybe I'll just turn it a little bit and show you. No, that's the door to my studio. But so that's my big bookshelf. It's 3 big shelves. And so this is where I cook up all my ideas pretty much.
So what part of Singapore is your studio in?
It's in my home. I live in Arcadia Road, which is a little west of the main orchard area. Singapore is very small. It's literally like smaller than Manhattan. It's that small. So I live in the residential part of an area just west of the main central part.
How long have you lived in Singapore now?
17 years.
And you're originally from?
I'm originally from India. So I moved to Japan 24 years ago. And I was there for 7 years. And then from there in 2003, I moved to Singapore.
Great.
Yeah. So originally from India.
Dr. James George, let's see your studio.
All right, Bob is going to take us on a quick Now, let me see. Can we reverse this?
Yeah.
Or can you, let's see.
I think you can, or just hold up your screen and point
Okay.
it,
Point to the
whatever
front.
works better for you guys.
Let no Bob know whether you're
Am I doing
seeing.
that right?
Hey, Bob. Thank you so much for being here today with Dr. G.
Am I doing that right? Do you see anything?
I see you. I see your
I think
Well,
we
how
have to
can we
turn
change
that
that?
around. Tell you what.
yeah, there we go.
All right, I get it.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, nice.
Wait,
Nice.
This is the,
So I can
Where
see.
I see you now.
you see?
All right,
Wow,
you know
that's a lot of art.
Oh my God. That's
He's
amazing.
very prolific. I don't know if he told you, but he has hundreds of paintings.
Oh my God. I am so jealous, Dr. G. Look at the size of your studio.
you see that guy?
Gorgeous.
Wow. I see now we see the full, back up a little bit. Beautiful
Oh,
portrait.
wow. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the portrait of Doc.
Look at this. Wow. Wow.
Like you s-
Wow. Look at those, red, white, and blue. Are you getting ready for the 4th of July?
Absolutely. People
Look at
love
this. Wow,
American.
beautiful.
Now, listen, if you see this black 4x4 body right
Which one?
here, that
Yeah.
one. See that one?
Yes.
In this city of Woodbury, the local art community is preparing to do an outdoor art tour. And I and another artist are doing separate sides. That's my contribution
Fantastic.
to a
Really
state.
A
amazing.
little bit so we can see the whole painting.
I can't tell if I'm getting
Your back up wherever you're standing, walk backwards.
the other way, Doc.
Yes. Yeah, it looks great. Wow, look at those. Fantastic. Wow, beautiful. I see new paintings that I haven't seen before. And those are all acrylic. It's acrylic, correct?
Now come over here, Bob. So here's more, but I want to show you, Bob, you see the picture face up there? See that face?
Yeah.
I want them to see that. Can you see that?
Yes. Go
Yes.
turn your camera to your left a little bit. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the artists I collect, and her name is Frances Crumb.
Wow, beautiful.
I have about 10 of her. Bob, let's bring
Well,
it
look
back.
at that.
We got to fix it there. I'm not very good at
So,
seeing
the
it.
technical glitch we just encountered is
We thought we were ready.
when you're doing Zoom,
Right.
when you're Zooming, how do you turn the screen around? You know, in FaceTime,
Yes. Yes.
reverse it, but
Got
I don't.
it.
Anyway,
You know
just
what? Good. That's a good point. Good to know for future, but you just did a great job. That's a beautiful studio and that's in your home, correct?
this also doubles as a basement.
Okay. It doesn't
Double.
look like, it looks like an amazing space.
Yeah.
It is very comfortable. And, you know, when Sunaina was showing us her space, it occurred to me that I like, and it seems you like as well, a certain amount of intimacy in the space. You know, instead of working in a big garage or, you know, and I've seen artists do that and I guess it worked for them, but a little more intimacy feels more comfortable for me.
Yeah.
I want to jump in and share. So let's get started on this Art Heals conversation. And Dr. G found me through reading my book, The Art Cure. I think it's very appropriate. I talk about how art helped my life personally and how it cured me in my own way and gave me a focus and a purpose in my life. And that's how I connected with Dr. G. And he was on his own healing journey through art. So could you talk to us about what happened in your life that led you to start making art and share with the audience? And know that many people watching will be family, friends, people that don't know you yet, artists that need some inspiration. And your story, both your stories are really inspiring and incredible. And I'm excited for people to get to meet you and understand how you've tapped into something to create beauty and add a lot of exuberance and life into your life through making art. So I'd love to hear you talk about your story.
So in my case, I had interest in art before I injured myself in June of 2016 by falling in my home, knocking myself unconscious, getting a subdural hematoma and a spinal cord contusion, which took me to Jefferson Health System Trauma Center, and then 9 days later transferred to McGee Rehab Hospital in Philadelphia. And it was a foggy experience for me. I mean, I was not mentally there. I didn't know what happened. And so I wasn't focused on art at the beginning of my journey from a health perspective. And then about 4 weeks, 5, 6 weeks in, the art therapist came into my room with her art cart and asked me if I wanted to paint. And I looked at her and I said to myself, how in the hell am I going to paint when I was right-handed and I'm not right-handed anymore? But I said, sure, let's give it a try. So she was very patient with me, and I still have a number of the paintings that I did at the very beginning of painting in art therapy. And they were dark. They were, they were probably reflective of my state of mind. And then over time, with the brush and the palette knife, I did more and more. And she was very encouraging in a non-pushy way. And during my 6-month hospitalization, I probably painted 120 paintings. And then they redecorated the waiting room of the hospital because a family member had driven, not my family member, a patient's family member accidentally drove their vehicle into the lobby. Wow. And a couple people and kind of caused major destruction. So when they were done rehabbing the lobby, they said, we'd like to hang some colorful art in the lobby. And they asked her, do you know anybody who has colorful art? And she came to me and said, they'd like to do this. Would you be willing? And that was a pivotal moment for me, because that was not in my consciousness, being on display and through the anxiety of what will people think and all of that. So I said yes. They hung 15 of my works, and all of this stuff is viewable on my website, which is drgeorgeart.com, and right. That's spelled out DoctorGeorgeart.com, and on Instagram, which is drgeorge.art.
Great.
That sounds like a naked pitch, but
yes, You know, did you have any, it sounds, I mean, I'm sure you were, the first part of your injury being in the hospital, you were unconscious. You were probably just fighting and trying to survive.
Yeah. What
And
do I do?
did you have any sense when the art therapist came into your room and asked you that question? Did you have any intuition on what was going to happen by saying sure?
None whatsoever. None whatsoever.
What made you say yes?
Well, it was almost like, why not? You know, she was a very nice person. She is a nice person. And I guess subconsciously, I must have been ready for something different for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's probably the only way I can explain it.
Got it. Do you remember what it felt like to hold a paintbrush and put down your first stroke of color and kind of be like, whoa, what am I doing? What was that like for you?
It was a little bit intimidating.
Was it?
And I really had no sense of color early on.
Yeah.
That evolved over several days, weeks. But what we would do is, after I completed a painting, which we would do each session, we would hang it on the window, that picture window in the room, and she would hang the paintings up on the window. And when family visited or whatever, or nurses or techs or therapists, you know, they would see these things, and they were very rudimentary, you know, maybe a little.
How long was how long were the painting sessions with the art therapist?
Probably an hour.
Okay.
From start to finish.
What was it like for you when you're in your room, in your bed, and you would look over and see a couple of your pieces that you had painted, your first works of art? What did it feel like to see them hanging on the wall or your window?
I knew they were there.
Yeah.
But they were not talking to me at that point.
Yeah.
They were talking to me. But then over time, as they accumulated, I would be intrigued by them in a strange way. And I'll fast forward and tell you that when they rehabbed the whole hospital floor by floor, and they hung 200 plus of my paintings throughout the whole hospital.
Wow.
I'd love to go when they finished hanging the paintings on a finished floor. I'd love to go and look at them, because it was a new experience seeing framed and up. I kind of was amazed that came from me.
Yeah.
And so that's a unique thing. And then when you go through and look at your work with other people who enjoy it as well, you see it through their eyes. I mean, it's an amazing experience. It really is.
It sounded like it was really gratifying for you. And that's a lot of paintings, 200 paintings hung and installed. That's a lot of art.
And I can't stop. I don't want to stop. And the other strange thing about healing is you never know how long you're going to be physically able to paint.
Yeah.
Nobody with an illness who appreciates art and creates art really knows how long physically able to do it.
Yeah.
So it drives me as well.
Wow. Yeah.
Picasso's 52,000 creations.
Oh my, yeah. Is that your goal? 52,000. You know, how long did it take you, Dr. G, before when you were painting where you really started to enjoy it and get into the flow and it started to click for you? How long of a process do you think that was?
Well, I was in the hospital 6.5 months.
Wow.
And then when I got discharged, when you've been in a rehab hospital and it's time to go home,
Yeah.
which is home in a different way, disability wider doors, a bathroom facility that you can maneuver in, ramps. I'm in a wheelchair most of the time, although I try to get out and exercise every day to a degree. So when you're doing the conversion to home, you have all of those fundamental maintenance issues going through your head.
Mm.
Now, I set up an art studio before my injury, but I never got into it, never used it, etc.
Wow. Yeah.
And then at home, I found that I wanted to paint more.
Yeah.
I continued painting.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened, and it hasn't stopped.
You said your early pieces were dark and you were probably processing emotionally what you had been through and were going through at that time in the hospital. And 6.5 months is a really long time to be in a hospital rehabbing. And I look at your paintings and they're so exuberant with color and they're bright and they're energetic. And how do you feel when you're making art, and what are you channeling and what are you trying to say to people looking at your art?
I guess what I'm selfish because I'm painting for me predominantly. I mean, it's very nourishing to me.
Mm.
It takes me to a place where there's pure joy, and that's what painting does for me. And then I never know what I'm going to paint. I have probably 6 or 8 different clusters of paints.
Mm.
Some better, thicker, some more liquid.
Mm.
And I'm a paint junkie.
Yeah.
I can't go to an art store without buying
I
some.
know the feeling.
I've heard that from a lot of artists.
I find myself rotating through paints. In other words, paints that I haven't touched in a year or more. I find I'm rediscovering them. So that it's a widening journey, which is full of joy and excitement. And for me, color is the hook.
Wow, I love it. Are you addicted to making art?
I am.
Okay, good. I love it. And then you said that it's very nourishing for you. And I love, to me, I feel that artists should be creating in a selfish way because all of this is being channeled from within and from ideas and thinking and coming out onto the canvas or material. Why not be very authentic and selfish about it? But I also love that for you, it's nourishing, and maybe like being outside in the sunshine. And could you talk about the nourishing, healing aspect of art for you?
Well, it's, exercise, which is critical for me and probably for all of us in one degree or another. But exercise is nourishing, especially when the weather's nice. But art for me is just another form. It's a more deep and meaningful form of nourishment, personal rejuvenation, regeneration. And the fact that when patients and families and others see my art, they generally react in a positive way.
Yeah.
And that keeps me in the hunt,
Yeah.
too.
And you're bringing up a really good point, and that's this idea that your art is in a hospital setting where people are experiencing their own traumas and situations with their family. And by extension, you're nourishing bright and colorful paintings or helping them and helping them feel better, maybe optimistic or positive. And I know you've sold your art to people that have seen it in the hospitals that you've been in. And how important do you think art is in hospital settings?
I think it's especially important in a hospital setting.
Yeah.
But there is an issue, and the issue is that not many hospitals use original art in any broad fashion.
Because they can't afford it, or what? Why do you think?
I
Or they
think
don't have a budget for it.
I think that the state of mind in institutional buildings, including hospitals, is that the art should be soothing and calming
Yeah.
to the patients and the whole environment.
Yeah.
And yet I have found the opposite reaction with my art, and it's not peculiar to my art, but to original art. I think patients and families react very positively to it.
Yeah.
So we're trying to turn around conventional wisdom in hospitals about art.
You know what, I love that. And I think you're right, because ultimately any person walking past a painting, any viewer, is going to bring their own emotion and life experience to how they're perceiving and looking at what you've created. And, you know, I think you're always coming from a place of positivity, and a lot of your work is very beautiful. So I do think there's an aura and subconscious way that our minds connect when we're looking at beautiful imagery.
Yes.
So why not? It doesn't have to be one type of art.
And I just want to share one little story. One of my paintings at McGee Hospital has been viewed by a longtime employee there who says this painting reminds her of her deceased daughter.
Yeah.
And we're going to give that painting to this individual.
Wow, beautiful.
Stories like that are just so amazing to me and to others, that you want to do something for that particular.
Dr. G, what would you say to artists who are going to watch this video that maybe some of them have wanted to make art, or some of them are healing from injuries, and they're looking for something to give them more hope and optimism? What would you say to people that need that encouragement to just try it and get started?
The best commercial I've ever encountered has been Nike's commercial, "Just do it. Don't be afraid. Just get the paint on the paper and enjoy it as a pure experience. And it'll bring rewards that you can't even predict when you start." So that's my, just do it.
I love it. Thank you. Well,
Thanks, Bridgette.
you have a lot of gratitude, and I'm really interested to tie in Sunaina Bala's story of art and healing, and then have you guys ask each other a question or two at the end. So, Sunaina,
Yeah.
talk to us about your art and healing experience, and kind of where that journey started, and what was going on in your life.
So I've actually I started my art career actually as a designer a long time ago. 25 years ago, I trained as a textile designer, and I moved out of India where I trained, and we moved to Japan, which was supposed to be a 3-month stint, and it turned out to be 7 years. And I went to Japan not knowing the language, couldn't get a job. So I decided to learn how to paint over there. And I found a teacher who spoke in English, which was a big thing.
Yeah.
And she taught me how to actually paint. Because I mean, even now, my foundation is not very strong in painting. I'm more of a designer in terms of the basics foundations of painting. But anyway, she taught me that for 5 years. And that's when I actually started painting. But we moved here to Singapore in 2003. I have two kids. Um, my oldest is 22, and my younger one is now just turned 14.
Mm.
And she got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when she was 3 years old. And before that, I hadn't even heard of type 1 diabetes. I did not know what it was. And it kind of pretty much changed our lives as we know it. Um, I was still painting and I was still, trying to keep my art alive, but it became a challenge because here I had a 3 year old who I had to inject pretty much 4 times a day because before she went on to the insulin pump, I actually had to count how much I was feeding her. And she was just a baby. So, just getting her to even eat used to be a challenge. She was a fussy eater. And, I was told that if you give anything more than 15 carbs, which is like one apple, I'm going to have to inject her. So I was so petrified of doing that. I was actually
Wow.
trying to give her less food, but it didn't work because I mean she's a child, and then of course she only wanted milk, and it was a little,
Wow.
it was a challenge. It took me about 6 months of really hard training to get her to sit and eat a variety of food. And so yeah, so the diabetes pretty much took over my life, as it were. It was like injections and blood tests. And so that till about 2 years ago I was doing about 10 to 12 blood tests a day for her. So
Wow.
it was a challenge. I had to get her to get settled in school. The school had to work with me, the nurses had to work with me.
Mm.
And so yeah, I mean it was just 5 nights in a week I was up testing her every 2 hours. So I think it just took a toll on my mind and my body for the longest time. And these
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
things just kind of creep up on you. You don't realize
Yeah.
how much they've taken over your life, but
Yeah.
it did. And it's obviously our whole household revolved around just making sure that she was okay. And
Well, keeping her safe and alive at that point.
exactly,
Yeah, and
exactly.
healthy.
Yeah, so it was, so I literally had to change my kitchen and figure out what foods to keep for her. And thank God for the insulin pump. Honestly, it made life easier. And well, I actually resisted it for a long time. The insulin pump is actually a machine that is like an IV put into her body, so the insulin drips into her body all the time instead of us giving her injections. So just the thought of having a machine stuck to her body was something that both my husband and I resisted for a long time. But finally, the doctor told us that it's vital for her blood sugar levels to be stable. So we kind of just took the plunge, and I think it was the best thing we ever did. And this was all when she was not even 4 years old.
Wow.
So anyway, over the years, we did all of that, and I kept trying to balance my painting as well as looking after her, which is why I'm very adamant that I work from home, because there was no way I could leave my house and go anywhere.
Yeah.
And then I think 5 years ago, the stress of it all and the lack of sleep and all of that just kind of took a toll on my body, and I got diagnosed with breast cancer. That was in
Mm.
2015.
Wow.
And that's when I said, okay. And the funniest part of the whole thing was that it wasn't so much about me getting the cancer. It was more still about her and
Mm.
looking after her. My worry was about her more than my own cancer. And even
Mm.
now, if you look at my art, I'm talking more about healing for her than I am for myself. It's just, I don't know why. If you ask me why, I don't know. It just is what it is. And so yeah, so just changed everything around. And then that's when I decided that I'm going to go back to studying. I wanted to do my master's in fine art because I really wanted some formal training in understanding how to get my art to the next level. Because the one thing that the doctor told me when I got my oncologist said that I can't paint anymore, because acrylic
Mm.
paint is something that I should not be using. It's carcinogenic and it's not a good idea for me to be using it. I think that was the only time I kind of freaked out that, I mean, what am I going to do in life if I'm not painting?
Wow.
But
Yeah.
as luck would have it, I did my master's, and it kind of, thanks to my wonderful teachers, they kind of introduced me to so many new materials, which I was anyway thinking of doing. You know, like I started working with wax and going back to my printmaking and going back to materials, and so it's kind of evolved in a way that I've actually really enjoyed. And now in the past 3-4 years, I've been focusing on traditional healing practices. I've been researching things like herbs and spices, and trying to combine them with different materials to create art that talks about how important it is to go right back to the foundation of what the body needs, and what we actually have within our own kitchens, and how we should actually be aware and examine that more closely rather than taking it for granted.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much been my journey up till now, and yeah, that's it.
Wow, it's quite a story. So you've been basically working on taking care of your daughter and your family, making sure she's safe, healthy, and trying to keep her healing in her life. And then you had your own health challenge in 2015, which I believe you've overcome, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's a lot of energy and a lot of time around healing. And I could see how with the love of design and making, how you turned to art. And not only did you turn to it, but you decided to go back to school and get your MFA, which can be, how old were you when you decided to do that?
45. Yeah, I was 45.
45,
45.
yeah. Yeah, which is fantastic. And that's been part of your journey. And it also sounds like you are tapping into your more traditional cultural roots, because I know India, your culture has a love of healing through organic processes like food and turmeric and things that they do every day, which are really centered around the body, mind, and spirit and soul. And so I love hearing how your focus has turned towards creating art using these traditional healing practices and materials to talk about this process of healing.
So actually, it was, so when I got cancer, my oncologist gave me, you know, like it was almost like a buffet of choices. And it's a very daunting task when a doctor, Dr. Gio, with my apology, I have to say that I wanted, so, you know, when they give you a very short amount of time to decide. And I cannot tell you the 72 hours of stress that my husband and I went through when they told us, okay, you want to do a mastectomy or you want to do a lumpectomy, and if you do this, you will get this, and this is the side effect of that. So I mean, we literally spoke to about 4 doctors within a few hours and got their feedback, did all of that, and at the end of it, my husband and I decided, okay, fine, let's not take the chance, let's do a mastectomy, which means remove the breast, and let's not just remove the lump. So we went back very comfortable with our choice. And we go there and the doctor says, why exactly have you chosen that? Because your risk is not that high. So I would choose a lumpectomy. And I'm looking at him and saying, why the hell didn't you say that in the first place?
Yes.
You know, you're giving me 3 days to choose whether to keep my breast or not. And that's a very scary thing to do.
Absolutely.
And so anyway, all those choices had to be made. And then the surgeries had to happen. I went through 2 surgeries. And after that, I have this wonderful oncologist who looks after me now. She's my go-to person. I have to get all my checkups and whatever I have to do.
Yeah.
And she put me on these medicines, right? Which are those preventatives that you have to take medicine for 5 to 10 years after cancer. These are those preventative medicines. I won't go into the details. They're very complicated. But the side effects of those medicines were insane. I mean, I think I had like a brain cloud. I couldn't think, I couldn't
Mm,
sleep. I was like a zombie.
mm,
I just couldn't function. So I
wow.
went back to her and I said, change it. And she changed it to another one. And we kind of went back and forth with changing my medicines for a good 7, 8 months.
Wow.
And that's when I said, okay, none of this is working for me. I mean, I was literally finding it difficult to walk because my joints were hurt,
Wow. Wow.
so all of those things happening, and you're thinking, if this is to prolong my life, I really don't want it to be like this, where I'm no use to anybody. If I'm like a zombie, I'm no use to even my kids.
Yeah.
So what's the point? So I took a decision to not take that medicine anymore. And my oncologist is not happy with me. But I decided to do it through looking after my diet and then going back to do Ayurveda in India, which so in Ayurveda they believe that the we believe that the body can heal itself if you give
Yeah.
it enough time and you do the right things. You can heal yourself. Of course, this is a very long, drawn out process. It takes time and a lot of discipline, which in this day
Yes.
and age is very difficult to do, because you're talking about really natural foods. You're talking about a lot of do's and don'ts, and for our lifestyle, especially living outside of India, a lot of ingredients are not available. A lot
Yeah.
of spices are not available, or even if they are, they are not the right ones.
Yeah.
So all those challenges. But I decided that it was better to do that rather than deal with the side effects of the meds. So
Yeah.
that's what I did, and then so both my daughter and we went back and we've had a couple of detox sessions. We've spent 2 and 3 weeks at a time getting a full detox done, and we've been on these Ayurvedic medicines, which actually have
Mhm.
had such amazing results that both her doctor and mine are quite amazed.
Mm.
The good part of being in Asia is that the doctors here are very open to alternate medicine. And
Yeah.
they are like, as long as it's not harming what we are doing with you, like, we don't want you to go into anything backwards. We don't want anything coming back. As long as you're keeping your checkups and everything, you try what you want to
Yes.
try.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been doing. And
Yeah.
like, my daughter is a celiac. She's allergic to gluten. And in the past 2 years, the Ayurveda has actually managed to reverse that. So
Wow.
yeah, so she can eat gluten now, and that's only because of the Ayurvedic treatment. I mean, poor thing, she has to have these really bitter medicines,
Mm.
and there are certain, we're having medicines every day, but they're all the natural ones, and they're all plant based, and they're very healthy. So that's what we are doing right now with all of this.
And talk to us about how these natural processes and herbs, how this has come into your artwork and your thinking and your imagery and how you make your art.
So basically, I think for me, it's all starts in the head, where I'm literally trying to find solutions to an everyday situation. I'm not,
Yeah.
the stress levels are very high. When you're dealing with a chronic illness, you're just trying to find a place where you can deal with it without going crazy yourself. I mean, there's just too much. You have the doctor telling you something. You have to look at your everyday life. It's like a lot of information, and I'm just trying to research and understand how to transcend that and get to a quieter place in the head. So I
Mm.
want, art for me has been, it's been a blessing in disguise, honestly. It's just been,
Mm.
so the quieter my art has been, the quieter my mind gets, and the clearer I get in my thinking. So actually, I'm a total opposite to Dr. G, where you're going totally colorful and I'm going totally white, because I need to. So if you see my
She
studio,
is.
it's all white. I mean, even my
Yeah.
house, my living room is all white, and my husband's like, "Can we please get some wood?" And I'm like, "No, this is my calm space. I need the white, you know, because life is colorful. Yes, you see color everywhere, and I actually get visually tired looking at color. So I
Mm.
like looking at color one at a time, and that's how I've been working with my art. I've been using materials like paraffin wax, which is translucent and white, and it's very clinical, And if you fuse it with traditional spices like turmeric, or if you're using, I tried it with red chili powder, I've tried it with cinnamon, and I'm creating these artworks which are healing and visually very quiet,
Yeah.
which is what I am trying to do through my work.
And they're on
And
your website, Sunaina, right? Because I know people are going to be curious. What's your website domain?
it's www.sunainabhalla.com.
SUNAINABHALLA.com.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
I'm also on Instagram. Actually, I post a lot of my images on Instagram as well, which is bhallas.sunaina. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook.
So
So
you,
yeah,
you find a sense of peace and calmness and almost meditation and making art, which ultimately ends up healing you as you're making it. And then for the people that are finding your art, is that part of your mission and purpose with putting your art out into the world to help people experience this?
yeah, absolutely. And it's also if you see my work, it's very repetitive. I like to take a single motif or a design or an object and I like to repeat it. The idea being that if you get into the rhythm of it, you kind of transcend it. You know, it's like dealing with the same thing again and again and again. At some point in time, you reach that saturation and then you transcend it. And that's the point that I want to highlight, that when you've got a chronic condition, the only way you can deal with it is going through it and finding that light at the end of the tunnel, you know. And
Wow,
that's
beautiful.
where I work with so many things. And yes, we're talking about tradition. In fact, I just did this project, the Little India art project, which I had talked to you about earlier, was I created this wall of wax pieces in a busy Little India part of Little India here in January, and basically talking about you know, every culture here we've got in Singapore a lot of different cultures. Even though we are Asian, everybody has their own way of making food and eating habits and things like that, but everybody's got grandma's recipes for a cold. And you know, you talk about what is a grandma's recipe for a cold, and you should know how to do that for yourself and then pass it on to the kids, and not just pop a pill every time you got a cold. You know, a lot of these
Yeah.
things are, you can self heal a lot. So the idea is to highlight that aspect of your own basically your own knowledge which you're not aware of, and to just basically frame it in a more palatable fashion, visual fashion.
I love it. So what would you say to an artist who is trying to find their voice and is potentially moving through a healing process? What would you recommend for them being in the studio and approaching making art from that place, having been
uh,
there yourself?
just keep doing it, because there's nothing better than it. It's the most therapeutic thing on earth, and it doesn't matter what you're creating, it doesn't matter what material you're using. In fact, I have a lot of my friends who are non-artists who will say, "Oh my God, I so envy you. You're an artist." And I said, "You know what? Just come to my studio for 2 hours and I will make you create an art piece. It doesn't matter what the material is. You don't have to be an art major, but everybody can paint, everybody can create." I'm running workshops for children. I mean, I had one this morning where I had kids just wrapping fabric around the rope, and I made them do those things and made coasters out of them. And they had
Wow.
such a blast. So if kids can do it, I don't understand why. I think we as adults become very cerebral, very conscious of ourselves, and we don't need to be, because each one of us is capable of creating. There's no question of that in my mind. Absolutely
I love
none.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to give the opportunity for the both of you, if you had questions for each other or comments you wanted to make before we wrap up this interview.
Well, let me start by giving Bridgette credit for bringing Sunaina and me together through the Art MBA program,
Thank you.
which we both participated in and continue to participate and benefit from Bridgette's experience. And it's fascinating to connect with other artists
Mhm.
and learn about them and where they're coming from. And Sunaina is a very intelligent and creative person.
Yeah.
And been wonderful meeting her and getting to know her better. And I think that will continue between us over time.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, I would say the same about Dr. G. Thanks so much, Bridget. I mean, if it hadn't been for you, I wouldn't have even known about Dr. G. And of course, your program, you know how much you've helped me sort my own head out and get so much further in what I was doing. And I think that's brilliant. So thanks for that. And yeah, Dr. G, I'm not leaving you alone. We are doing some stuff together. We are definitely doing some stuff together. And as soon as I can, I'm coming to see you.
All
and I
right.
hope that you can travel and come to see
Oh,
me too.
you both are going to be curated into my benefit exhibition next summer in Philadelphia, June 2021. And I think that would be a wonderful opportunity to for both you guys to create some type of workshop together in maybe McGee or somewhere. Dr. G. Sunaina does incredible workshops with children on woodblock printing. It's a traditional Indian block printing that she is really good at doing. It's one of her passions on the side, and she teaches this. And she came to Philadelphia last fall and did a workshop with Mural Arts that I helped her set up with children. And I know she would love to come back, and I think she's planning on it. So I'm just going to put that out there.
Wonderful. I look forward to that, spending time
Yes.
together.
So
Yeah.
my takeaways from not only knowing the both of you separately through your art making and your studio practices and immersing myself in your art, which is very different on both sides and very beautiful, is literally that art can heal. Art can help you find your voice and a different purpose. It can help you find peace. It can help you illuminate the things that you're going through and work through them. And then the end result is that both of you, amazing artists, are sharing your gifts out into your communities, doing lots of things within hospitals and working with children. And so basically taking all of your experiences and what you've learned and both of your positive energies and sharing them into the world in such a beautiful way. And my hope is that people that are watching this will go onto Sunaina's and Dr. G's websites that they mentioned and will look at their art. They're incredible artists, and I hope you'll think about adding their art to your collection or getting in touch with them and being on their newsletter list and following them, because they're up to some amazing things. And we will keep this going, this conversation, and thank you both for making time this morning. And we're coming to you from Singapore, from New Jersey, and from Orlando, where I'm based right now. So we are an international group of people that love art. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
So much, Bridget. Thanks, Dr. G.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.
Well.
Bye.